podcast number 97, Unlimited Melodies. In previous podcasts, we investigated various methods to create unlimited chord progressions, which in turn form the foundations of an endless amount of songs. Now we will do the same with melody. Throughout the history of music, composers have used certain techniques to develop phrases, sections, songs, etc. From the building blocks of music, motivic cells, small groups of notes that evolve into the body of a work. Let's begin. The most commonly used and most probably the most important technique is repetition and repetition with variation or development. In every song, we see this technique used extensively. Think of your favorite song or piece of music, the amount of repetition and how it is altered to fit new lyrics or in instrumental music for development. First, I will create a basic motive and then develop it with various alterations. The main motive will be C, G, F, and C, and the chords will be C major 7th, E minor 7th, and F major 7th. The notes in C major 7th are C, E, G, and B, E minor 7th are E, G, B, and D, and F major 7th are F, A, C, and E. This will be used throughout, except for one small section. Okay, let's begin. First, I will play our basic motive. That was 2 measures long. Now we will play an exact repetition. Now this is very common in modern music, either with new lyrics or repeating the same lyrics. In our third example, the last note is altered from a C to an E. In our next example, a note or notes are repeated for extra syllables as needed. In our next example, many times composers will add in extra notes between the main notes of the motive, once again for interest or for added lyrics. These added notes might be what is known as auxiliary tones. That's a note above or below the original notes, or connecting notes. In other words, notes known as passing tones, which connect the notes of the motive. Next, we have the same notes, but we change the melodic rhythm. This next one is used quite often. You keep the same rhythm, but change the notes. This gives you endless possibilities, but for the listener, it keeps cohesion. That is very useful because you're combining something old with something new. That alone can lead to endless possibilities. In the next example, we have different notes and a new rhythm, but the chords stay the same. This next technique is one of the most commonly used techniques in all music, whether it's symphonies, songs, anything you can think of, and that's a sequence. That's where you play the same pattern of notes, only starting on a higher or lower note. For example, I will play the first 3 notes of the scale up and down, and then move 1 note up and do the same pattern. Now I will use a sequence with our basic motive. I will play the basic motive and then I will play a sequence 3 notes higher. Now in our next example, I will play a sequence, but the sequence I will use variation and I will use some connecting tones to bring us into the new sequence. I cannot stress enough how often this is used. In almost every song I've analyzed, I see this following technique. They keep the same notes or the same notes with variation, but then change the chords, which changes the color of the melodic notes. Due to the fact, if a note is in the chord, a chord tone, it has a certain color, usually calm, absence of tension. Non-chord tones have varying degrees of tension and color. In my previous podcast, I addressed this subject quite often because it does come up quite a bit in popular music. So now I will play the same notes in the motive, the same rhythm, but I've changed the chords. I will use A minor, G, F, and G. So now we have a whole new feel, a minor feel. Now in the next I will use the A minor, G, F, and G again, but this time I will add notes into the basic motive as we have done previously. Now you can see the possibility here are really endless because I've changed the rhythm, the beat, the feel a little bit. Now besides being in minor, I made it a little harder. So you could imagine if you changed the beat totally. Now this one, of course, is especially useful. I keep the same chords. I keep the same rhythm of the motive, but now I change the notes. And now for our next example, I've added notes in between the notes that we have just used. Now let's combine some of the techniques we have just used into a section, which could be a verse, a chorus, whatever. So I will start with the motive, then use some of the techniques we have worked on, and then end with the motive. As we have just seen, from a four-note motive, the possibilities for development are endless, whether you sing or use an instrument to compose. In earlier podcasts, I stressed something I truly believe will make a major influence on anyone composing music. Play the keyboard. With YouTube, in a few weeks you could learn enough chords and scales to compose modern songs because they are mostly built around 4 or 5 chords. Play the guitar. You could easily learn to play the basic chords on the guitar. The guitar to play is one of the most difficult instruments, but basic chords are simple and you could do that in a few weeks using YouTube. However, one thing to remember is make sure if you do get a guitar, have someone help you, that it must be very easy to press the strings down. It should never be hard. Sometimes people give up because it's hard, but that means the neck is twisted or warped. It should be very easy to play. Play the drums, even a pair of sticks on a drum pad. Just play along with your favorite music. This is proven in university studies to be beneficial for your mental and physical health. Above all, sing all the time, whether you're a singer or not. Sing in the car, sing with your favorite songs. In fact, play the drums and sing along. This will get the music inside you. Also, I have previously emphasized improvising music freely on a keyboard, on a guitar, and sing along. you will see this will make a tremendous difference in your music and your phrasing. Doesn't matter whether you're a singer or not a singer, you have a great voice or not so great. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. First of all, every day you will get better, but you will notice a difference. If you are interested, I have videos on YouTube and Instagram using the techniques that I've discussed in this podcast. I'd like to leave you with this quote by D. Morita. Music can heal the wounds that medicine cannot touch. Thank you so much for listening. Take care, Joe.